So today I think that I have been able to make a very distinct biblical connection between Zechariah 14, an event that occurs in Zechariah 14 from verses 12 through 15, and Revelation 16. Now, what I want to point out is this. Revelation 10 verse 7 says that the words of the prophets will be fulfilled when the seventh trumpet begins to sound. All right? Let me show you something. Revelation 9 and verse 14. Well, we'll start in verse 13. And the sixth messenger sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which is before Jehovah, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels, messengers, which are bound in the great river Euphrates. Yesterday's video, we just read something about one of the old Easter traditions that an egg was laid into the Euphrates River. Angels that are bound, messengers that are bound, I think common sense would tell you that they are demons. But anyway, I'll continue. And so the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, a day, a month, and a year, for to slay the third part of men. How? How is this slaying going to take place? Now it says the number of the army of the cavalry were 10,000. 10,000. 10,000. Well, obviously it's a little bit more than 10,000. 10,000. Or we don't know the number, okay? Because it's got lost in translation. And I heard the number of them. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and of hyacinth and brimstone. And the heads of the horses were like heads of lions. So they clearly weren't horses as in the horses that we know today. He is describing something in the cavalry that was best described in his mind as horses, but had heads of lions, and out of their mouth issues fire, smoke, and brimstone. By these were the third part of men killed, by the fire, and by the smoke, and by this brimstone which was issued out of their mouths. Now, I just read over it where it says, yes, by these were the third part of men killed, by the fire, by the smoke, and by the brimstone, which was issued out of their mouths, for their power is in their mouth and in their tails. And like I pointed out a year or so ago, it does appear to be possibly nuclear missile launchers. The power's in their mouth and in their tails. So, you know, in the head of the vehicle is where the launching buttons are, or mechanisms are, and also in their tails. For their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads with them that do hurt. Or maybe it means warheads in them. Maybe. But we're talking about a third part of men here. So let us go back to Zechariah 14. I keep saying you will find anything in the words of the Messiah and the words of the disciples. You will find them written in the prophets somewhere. Remember, Revelation 10 and verse 7, I believe it is. It says, the words of the prophets will be fulfilled when the seventh trump begins to sound. So the words of the prophets in the hearts, minds, and writings of Yehoshua the Messiah and the disciples were utmost in their thoughts. The words of the prophets were. There is absolutely no way to get around it. I don't care what the Christians say. The reason why Christians don't like the words of the prophets, because the words of the prophets convict them of idolatry. That's the reason why they reject the words of the prophets. But the words of the prophets shall stand. Now, as in several videos ago, I pointed out there should be a different way to read Zechariah 14 than the way that people have read it in the past. And we'll go over this again. This section right here, from verses 1 and 2, that is speaking of the destruction of Jerusalem in the days of 70 CE being the central time from 67 to 74. All right. So it says, behold, the day of Jehovah's wrath comes, and it came upon Jerusalem, and their spoil was divided in the midst of them. And the Gentiles did come against Jerusalem to battle, and the city indeed was taken, and the houses were rifled, and the women were cut down. That word is cut down. Laid low. They were cut down. You know this by reading history. And the Arabs, the Syrians, were the worst offenders of that particular atrocity. And half the city shall go forth into captivity, exile, and they did. And the rest of the people were cut down in the city. You cannot sit there and say they were not cut off. They were cut down. Completely cut off. Some did flee. Yehoshua said, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel, flee, run to the mountains. Now, the second part is the last days. Retaliation. Jehovah will go forth and fight against those Goi. When he fights in the day of battle, and his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall cleave in two in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west. And there shall be a great, very great valley, and half the mountain shall remove from the north, and half of it toward the south, and you shall flee to the valley of the mountains. So everybody, all Israel, all of the Jews are going to have to run away from Jehovah when he when his throne comes down, so that they don't get killed by the weight, the power of his coming. They have to stand back, run away from it, get back. All right? Because he says, as you fled in the earth before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah the king of Yehuda, because this event, his throne coming down, as you read in the sixth seal, is going to cause horrendous earthquake around the world. And meteorites will be falling from the sky as figs falling from a fig tree in a mighty wind. It says, Jehovah Elohim shall come, and all the Kodesh with him. It is going to be that cloudy and dark day. And that day, the light will be precious and rare. Rare. There won't be any light. It will be congealed, thick darkness. All right? In that day, it shall be known of Jehovah. Day, night, but it shall come to pass at evening time, a light. There will be a light from Jehovah. Now, he talks about at that time, living waters will come up out of Jerusalem, half toward the former sea and half toward the hinder sea, and the summer and winter it shall be. Now it says, its fruit in autumn shall it be. Oh, not in the summer and winter after all. At the fruiting of the autumn shall it be. And Jehovah shall be king over all the earth. In that day there shall be one Jehovah, and his name shall be one. His name is not God. His name is not Gut. His name is not Deus. His name is not Zeus. It is this name. Only one. Jehovah. Right here. Phonetic spelling. Learn it. Respect it. Honor it. But what am I getting at? Verse 12. And this shall be the plague wherewith Jehovah will smite all the people that fought against Jerusalem. Are you ready? We just read 1/3 will die in this plague of the sixth trumpet sound. Their flesh shall consume away while they are standing upon their feet. You've watched these movies. You saw what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This is exactly what he's describing. And if you think that that's not it, if you think that's not what he's talking about, we'll go down further and there will be proof. It will be of mankind's own doings. He says so right here in this particular chapter. And their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. That day, why is this happening? Why is this happening? He explains. That day, a tumult from Jehovah shall be among them, shall grow firm, shall be strong. Man on the hand of his neighbor. And his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. And at that time, Yehuda will have to fight at Jerusalem. Or it should say, Yehuda will devour Jerusalem or take Jerusalem. Oh, that's a little bit different, isn't it now? You see, the whole world still thinks they have a piece of Jerusalem. They claim that Jerusalem belongs to the Jews, the Muslims, and the Christians. And because of this blackmail that the world has against the Jews can't even pray at the Temple Mount. Well, when Jehovah's throne comes down at the sixth seal, it's going to come down on the Temple Mount. And that's the reason why the people of Israel are going to have to run for their lives, as we just read. Once the throne is settled down, and it does say his feet are going to be planted on the Mount of Olives, Jehovah's, it says that Yehuda will have total control. See, in King James it says shall fight, but this right here says, well, it does say to fight, to do battle. Well, if they're doing battle, who are they doing battle against? It will be against the Jordanians. Okay? Now, so Revelation 9. We're obviously talking about a war, a great war that takes the lives of the entire third of people off the face of the earth. This is obviously, there is no war that can do this except a nuclear war, folks. Let me rephrase what I just said. There is no war except a nuclear war that can, within 1 day or 1 hour, 1 day, 1 month, and 1 year, take the lives of 1/3 of the world's population. Nuclear war. And he says right here that this plague, where their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth, that day a great tumult from Jehovah shall be among them. And they shall lay hold every one the hand of his neighbor, and the hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. This is the overthrowing of the Gentiles, as written in Isaiah 60. Also as written in Ezekiel 39, where he says he will send a fire upon Magog and those that dwell carelessly in the coastlands of the Mediterranean Sea. And he's speaking of Magog and Rome, and everything Roman. See here. Verse 20 said, and the rest of the men who were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils. that they that they make with their hands, that they should not worship devils, idols of gold, silver, and brass, and stone, and of wood, and neither can they see, nor hear, nor talk. In every house of worship among Christians today, these people still neither repented of their murders, nor of their sorceries, pharmakia, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. All the land grabs, government thefts from the people, etc., and people stealing from people. They still did not, even after 1/3 of the population was wiped out in a nuclear war. Now, Haggai too backs this up. Oh, wait a minute. Verse 18 says, remember this day, or set this place, set this day, and upwards, above, from the 24th day of the 9th month, the day that the foundation of Jehovah's temple was laid. Everybody knows that's Hanukkah, or the day before Hanukkah. Is the seed in the barn, the vine, and the fig tree, and the pomegranate, and the olive tree has not brought forth, but this day will I bless you. Verse 20, and again the word of Jehovah, not the Lord, came unto Haggai in the 24th day of the month, saying, speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Yehuda, saying, I will shake the heavens and the earth. You can read that in the 6th seal. Okay? I will overthrow the thrones of the kingdoms. I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the Gentiles. I will overthrow their chariots and those that ride in them, and the horses and their riders shall all come down, everyone by the sword of his brother. Have any of you taken a look around lately? Let's go to 1 Thessalonians 5. Verse 1, but of the times and the seasons, brethren, you have no need that I write unto you, for you yourselves know perfectly that the day of Jehovah's wrath so comes as a thief in the night. That means nothing unusual is happening. But Paul provides us one key sign. And this key sign may, please understand, I'm using the word may, have just happened. It coincides with the fact that from June, or from Shavuot, I should say, on the Roman calendar, 1967, until the day that the year that Donald Trump got elected. And what did he do? He started off with the peace plan of the century, as I've mentioned many, many times in these videos. You will never see other preachers talking about it the way I did, because it doesn't fit their narrative. And this peace plan of the century turned into the Abraham Accords. And the Arabs were and the Israelis were lighting Hanukkah candles together in Abu Dhabi, in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, in Israel, and in the United States for the first time since Isaac and Ishmael buried their father Abraham. Did anybody pay attention to that? No, because it doesn't fit the narrative. But Paul said this. For you yourselves know that the day of Jehovah's wrath so comes as a thief in the night, when you're not looking. Fact, Yehoshua said, when you think not. Watch this. Luke 12 and verse 40. Be therefore ready, for the Son of Man comes in an hour when you think not. Paul gave us a sign, did he not? Didn't he tell us? For when they shall say peace and safety, and he got that out of Psalm 69 and verse 22. Let their table be made a snare, and let peace and safety, or shalom, be the trip line. Trip line. Then sudden destruction shall come upon them, as travail upon a woman and with child, and they shall not escape. Now, we read right here, this sudden destruction might be coming upon man up. No, not might be. What am I saying? Will be coming upon man of his own doing. One-third of men wiped out in just a little over a year. Not even the Black Plague killed that many in such a short period of time. This would be an absolute disaster. Something that the world has never seen before. And yet, the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils, idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, and neither do they hear or walk, or neither repented of their murders, nor their sorceries, nor their fornications, nor their thefts. Now we read here in Revelation 16, when the last vial is about to be poured out upon the Gentiles. It says this. The sixth messenger poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water there was dried up, that the way of the kings of, it should read Anatolia, might be prepared. And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come up out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. And they are the spirits of demons, working wonders, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and to the whole world, to gather them to the battle of the great day of Jehovah Almighty. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he who watches and keeps his garments, lest he walk naked, and they see his shame. And he gathered them together in a place in the Hebrew tongue called Har Megiddo. All right. So there was 4 years in this world of relative quiet. I don't mean in the United States, I mean in the world. A man was trying to get himself a Nobel Peace Prize, trying to work out some sort of peace between the Arabs and the Israelis. And now we hear there are 4 more, according to Israeli news, 4 more Arab nations that are ready to, or Muslim nations, I should say, that are ready to sign some sort of peace agreement with Israel, one of them being Saudi Arabia. Right here in verse 3 of 1 Thessalonians 5 says, for whenever to say peace and safety. There are other translations that say while they are saying peace and safety. We'll go to the original source, Psalm 69. Verse 22. All right. Who was it that gave Yehoshua gall and vinegar to drink? Do you recall? See if we can find it. There it is right here. Matthew 27 and verse 34. 4. All right, let me, just so we don't see this abomination, we're going to see it, but we at least are able to point out the error. Now, so the soldiers of the governor. Who were the soldiers of the governor? Well, the soldiers were Roman soldiers. Took not Jesus, but Yehoshua, right here. Yehoshua. Took Yehoshua into the common hall and gathered him the whole band of soldiers. And the Roman soldiers stripped him and put upon him a scarlet robe. Remember, it says that he was going to be handed over to the sinners. Who are the sinners he's talking about? Well, the high priest of the Jews handed him over to the Romans. And he put a crown of thorns on his head and a reed in his right hand, and they bowed the knee before him, mocking him, saying, be glad, King of the Jews. And they spit upon him and took the reed and smote him on the head. Who did this? The Romans. And after they had mocked him, they took the robe off of him, put his own raiment back on, and led him away to fence him. Fence him with stakes. Verse 33, and there were come unto a place called Golgotha, that is to say, a place of a skull, and they gave him vinegar to drink mingled with gall. And they fenced him with stakes, or as they say, crucified, and parted his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled, as spoken of by the prophet. They parted my garments among them, and upon my vesture they did cast lots. Well, I want to just go ahead and let's see if I can find that in. It's in the same chapter. Psalm 22, verse 18. Have a look, shall we? No, it's not the same chapter. I'm sorry. I got 22, verse 22 mixed. So what I'll do is we'll go to Bible Hub again. Getting carried away here. Psalm 22. Verse 16. We'll start in verse 12. Many bulls have compassed me, strong bulls of Bashan have beset me round about. They gaped upon me with their mouths, and ravening and a roaring lion. I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax, it is melted in the midst of my bowels. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, my tongue cleaves to my jaws. And you have brought me into the dust of death. For dogs, this is a term for Gentiles. The dogs have compassed me, and the assembly of the wicked, Roman soldiers, have enclosed me, and they pierced me, my hands and my feet. I can see all my bones. They look and they stare at me. They parted my garments among them, and cast lots upon my vesture. Now, as you can see, let's see here. I think I may have lost my... All right, I got that. I have to be careful if I start going to too many scriptures at the same time, at one time. I think we're going back to 22. Let their table become a snare before them. Oh, that's right. So this is where I was talking about, verse 21. So obviously, he's talking about the Romans here. They gave me also for gall for my meat and my thirst. They gave me vinegar to drink. So in retaliation, let their table become a snare before them. And let shalom, let shalom, let peace and prosperity let's see here. Abraham, I think. I've done this several times, folks. This is not the one that I directly from the Trump administration, but this is good enough. This is shorter version. We, the undersigned, recognize the importance in maintaining the strengthening peace in the Middle East around the world based upon mutual understanding, coexistence, as well as respect for human dignity and freedom, including religious freedom. We encourage efforts to promote interfaith, intercultural dialogue to advance a culture of peace among three Abrahamic religions and all humanity. We believe that this is the best way to address challenges is through cooperation and dialogue and developing friendly relations among states advance the interests of lasting peace in the Middle East around the world. We pursue a vision of peace, security, and prosperity in the Middle East around the world. And Paul said, remember, this is the Abraham Accord Declaration. It was started with first the peace plan of the century, and in it you see the same kind of writing. So it's the same thing. While they, the Roman Christians, are saying peace and safety, and I'm here to tell you right now, this country, United States, is Roman Christian. I don't care what you Protestants say, you are Roman Christian as well. Let their table become a snare before them, and let peace and safety be the bait, the lure, the snare, and we all know in modern language the lure contains or is sitting near or on the trip line. The Arabs took part in the destruction of Jerusalem too. They're not going to escape. They helped the Romans destroy Jerusalem. They were the most fervent into cutting up the women and children and the old men. The Arabs were. They think they're going to escape? No. No, they're not going to escape. Every nationality that had a hand in the destruction of Jerusalem will suffer the great plague of nuclear annihilation. And what caused me to go over this subject today was something that I read while I was doing yesterday's video. Where was it? It was, give me a minute here. I'm going to lose it. I can't. Oh, in the book of Jeremiah. After reading all of this, how can this next scripture be ignored? Explain to me. How can this next scripture be ignored? I keep saying Jeremiah, and it's Isaiah. All right. Isaiah 14. He talks about Babylon. And in my last series of videos, you should know by now who Babylon, the great whore, the whole business is here. Okay? There are no excuses. Now, yesterday, I said that this Babylon, or this Rome, the kingdom of iron, did this. But after uploading the video, I looked at this more carefully, and I'm thinking to myself, this is much, much bigger than what I thought. That made the world, the inhabited world, that is all of civilization, as a desert. Midbar. You made the lands uninhabitable. A wilderness with the whole world? Let's be honest here for a minute, folks. When was that ever done? I'm talking about just reading it as it says. When was that ever done? Really? Do you know of a time when such a people made the entire inhabitable world uninhabitable at a stroke? It's never happened. But it's predicted to happen. And we just learned how it's going to happen. Made the world as a desert and destroyed all the cities thereof. And destroyed the cities. This right here is, to me, is the most pertinent in this verse. Now, there's another thing. Christians like to hold on to and claim that it belongs to them. They claim that the blessing on Israel, where it says they shall no more say that because the fathers have eaten sour grapes, the children's teeth are set on edge, because that's not going to happen to Israel anymore. Everyone is going to, in Israel, is going to suffer for their own sins and not for the sins of their fathers. Right here, verse 21. Prepare to slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers. The Holocaust, the blood libels, the Crusades, the Council of Nicaea, and other pogroms around the world. Prepare the slaughter of his children for the iniquity of their fathers, so that they do not rise again, nor take possession of the Eretz, nor fill the faces of the world with cities ever again. For I will rise up against them, says Jehovah of hosts, to cut off from Babylon the name, the residue of the people, the son and nephew, says Jehovah, and I will make it a possession for the porcupine and muddy marshes of water, and will sweep it with the broom of destruction, extermination, says Jehovah of hosts. Now, you can take what I pointed out today lightly if you want to. Most people will, as you can plainly see in Revelation 9 verse 20. Even after a whole third of men were killed by nuclear destruction, the men which were not killed by these plagues repented not of their works of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver, brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk, neither repented they of their murders, nor their sorceries, nor their fornications, nor their thefts. No, so I don't expect that many people to take what I say here today to heart, but it will be recorded as a testimony against you. But no one will ever be able to accuse me or my dad, because he's been with me this whole time, taught me from my youth. We learned together for many years these very things that I'm talking about today. And I'm thankful that I have the ability to post this on YouTube. No one will ever be able to accuse him and I of burying this truth in the sand and waiting for judgment to come. This has been shouted upon the housetops all over YouTube in a way that the whole world, even the people in Burma, China, can access. No excuses, folks. When you think not, that's when it's going to happen.